Aloha no, I'm Hale Hō, and this is Small Town, Big Art, a placemaking project for Wailuku, Maui. This project is funded by the Maui Historical Society and the Maui Redevelopment Agency under the National Endowment of the Arts Our Town program. It's coordinated by Hale Hō at the Bailey House Maui Historical Society. Originally, these stories were to be told at various sites in Wailuku and followed by storytelling workshops. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we all are asked to stay at home to avoid spreading the virus. So instead, I thought it would be an idea to record the stories here at my home and share them with you on the internet. Then we can do the workshops by teleconference. Many people think stories are simple things, just for amusing children. But stories touch all of us. Using stories to share experience goes back to the beginnings of humans as social beings. Stories hold our shared experience and allow us to share new experiences. In English, when we speak of literature, we generally classify works as fiction or nonfiction, made up or true. But how does one define true? Sometimes a story that does not adhere to quantifiable data, but draws on emotion and archetype, conveys more truth than a recitation of data can. Often, we call such stories myths. The late mythologist Joseph Campbell wrote, "There are two totally different orders of mythology. There's the mythology that relates you to your nature and to the natural world, of which you're a part. And there's the mythology that is strictly sociological, linking you to a particular society." Myths are part of society's common attempt to explain humanity's role in the universe. Campbell also wrote, "Myth makes a connection between our waking conscious and the mystery of the universe. It gives us a map or a picture of the universe and allows us to see ourselves in relationship to nature." Legends serve a different purpose. Legends are told as history and often emphasize characteristics of individuals they portray in order to teach moral legends. Both myths and legends, especially legends, may be based on actual people and events. Mo'olelo, generally translated to English as story, usually is told with a purpose, to teach, explain, or record something. Myth is often mo'olelo. Ka'au, a less well-known term, is a bit more narrow in concept. Often told for entertainment, ka'au may be more fanciful and romantic than mo'olelo. Legends tend to be constructed more like ka'au, though they often are used like mo'olelo. Sometimes they are told simply, other times they are told in all their depth and complexity. There are many stories, for each migration brought to our islands its own traditions and understandings. And the stories evolved, for each generation built on the traditions and history of its forebears. Each ohana tells the stories in its own way to bring the understanding of the past to the future. Hawaiian mo'olelo and ka'au include love stories, children's fables, and even how-to manuals. Often we think of stories just in terms of entertainment, but encoded within these entertaining tales is information on the meteorology, geology, oceanography, biology, and natural history of Hawaii. And they teach us lessons on how to live within its environment and with each other. We are in a time right now where we must work together to stop the spread of COVID-19, this ma'i'ino, this dangerous illness. And so the first story is about the ʻAʻama and the ʻAlamihi, two different crabs which teach one lesson on working together. ʻAʻama and ʻAlamihi. When I was a little girl, my nana used to admonish me to learn to get along well and to work well with others. Be an ʻAʻama, not an ʻAlamihi, she would say. You see, the kupuna, the elders, were very wise in the observation of nature, and so they would take the behavior of the natural things they saw around them and apply these things to daily human life. The ʻAlamihi is a smallish mottled brown and black crab of the Hawaiian shoreline. It scurries about, scraping up the detritus which collects on the sand, bubbling as it eats the little bits and pieces. A favorite way to catch ʻAlamihi when I was a girl was to go out at night with a broom. You shine a flashlight on the ʻAlamihi, it blinds them, and then you whap down with the broom, holding them onto the hard-packed sand, stunning them. You slide your hand under the broom, grab the ʻAlamihi, and drop it in your bucket. It was not necessary to put a cover on the ʻAlamihi bucket, as they would either tuck their legs under them and sit quietly in the juncture between wall and floor, or they would scurry sideways round and round along the seam. When several ʻAlamihi were in the bucket, if one would try to climb over its fellows' backs and escape, the others would grab its legs, pulling it back in. At times this was so violently done that the would-be escapee's legs were torn off. They were easy to catch and bring home. They were okay as an amusement for children, but in my family, not the most desirable food on the rocks. ʻAlamihi ai kupa pa'u, corpse-eating crab, was an epithet which probably added to the distaste for their flesh. Their habit of dragging their fellows into common doom also was looked on with disdain. Their name was applied to people who would rather fight among themselves than accomplish a task. The ʻAʻama, however, was highly desired and a favorite food in my ohana. My father fished for them with a long bamboo pole, often an old ulua pole. A pair of ni'au, coconut frond midribs, were lashed to the tip of the pole, and a ni'au crossbar lashed between them to hold the tips apart about 8 inches. A black thread was tied between the whippy tips. With a steady hand and eye, he would reach that long pole out to the wave-washed rocks in front of our home. The ʻAʻama, wary of that strange object, would scurry into the cracks and crevices in the rocks. In a few moments, though, they would come to the edge and peer out. Daddy would lower the thread just in front of them. Trembling in the air, it must have looked so enticing to the crustaceans. They would raise up on their legs and stretch their eyes out to get a closer look. Daddy would ever so gently lower the thread to stroke the shell of the nearest crab. Feeling the unfamiliar touch, the ʻAʻama would leap back toward its hiding place, snapping its eyes back into the safety of the shell. But away for the crab! As it leaped back, the thread would catch on its eye stalks and be held firmly in place. Daddy would swing the pole with its dangling ʻAʻama back over to me. My task was to unhook the ʻAʻama from the thread and drop it into the bucket. Now, an ʻAʻama bucket is a much different affair from an ʻAlamihi bucket. Ours were large, tall, and narrow. They had a tightly fitting lid with a crab-sized puka in the center. The ʻAʻama would be pushed through this puka and dropped into the bucket. As I waited for the next ʻAʻama, I could hear those already caught scrambling and scratching, hunting for the exit. As more ʻAʻama were added to the bucket, they would pile on top of each other, pushing each other to the top of the bucket. If one managed to get the tip of a claw into any chip or ding in the lip of the bucket, it held on for dear life. The others would reach as high as they could and grasp its dangling legs. Soon, a living chain of ʻAʻama was dangling from the lip of the bucket. If not for that special puka lid, all of the remaining ʻAʻama would in the blink of an eye scramble up the chain and leap for freedom. And so, my kupuna used the lessons of the natural world around me to teach values like laulima, cooperation. To this day, I can close my eyes and remember my Nana's voice. Don't be an ʻAlamihi. be like an ʻAʻama,